welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. The Indian Space Research Organization has successfully launched their GSLV-F15 carrying the NVS-02 at Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh, marking ISRO's 100th rocket mission. The mission is also the first for the space agency's Chairman V, Narayanan, who assumed office recently. It is ISRO's maiden venture this year. This mission marks a significant milestone as it represents ISRO's 100th launch from this spaceport, showing India's growing capabilities in space exploration. The GSLV-F15 is part of the geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle program and will deploy the NVS-02 satellite into a geosynchronous transfer orbit. And the NVS-02 is a crucial component of India's navigation with Indian Constellation system, which aims to provide accurate position, velocity and timing services across India and up to 1,500 kilometers beyond its borders. India's autonomous regional navigation system, Navigation with Indian Constellation, is designed to provide precise position, velocity, timing services to users within India up to 1,500 kilometers beyond its borders. In the system's primary service area, this launch is particularly noteworthy as it features an indigenous cryogenic stage, which is vital for increasing payload capacity and efficiency during satellite launches. Joining me on the telecast is Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt. Thank you, sir, for joining me on the telecast. And I've spoken about a lot of these technical jargon. I would like to understand from you, why is it so important that this 100th mission, where a navigational satellite has been placed in the orbit, so important for ISRO and the space industry in our country?
You know, from 1979, when the first SLV-3 was launched, to today, when we have had a 100th launch, it has been a long way and a very successful one. We are proud of especially the PSLV satellite, where we have already had 62 launches, and today the 17th successful launch of the GSLV, which places NAvIC 2, a replacement satellite for a NAvIC system, in the geosynchronous orbit. ISRO over the years, and yes, from the last 60 years, has been putting India on the high table as far as space goes. With all its achievements, to include Chandrayaan 3, Aditya mission, and now of course, this is one of the very routine launches, but the symbolism is, it is the 100th one. And we are very proud of it.
Absolutely. Now, you said it is a routine launch, but symbolically it's a major milestone for ISRO and the country. If you could also explain to us the navigational satellite that has been placed in the orbit, how many have already been placed by ISRO on the orbit, and what are its objectives?
You know, we have a NAvIC satellite system, basically of 7 satellites, which are there and which give a coverage over the Indian landmass for an area of 1,500 kilometers beyond our boundary. This is an indigenous system to provide, it's a Indian GPS, which provides position, navigation and timing all over India, the Indian landmass and the seas around us in the areas of our immediate interest and where our navies operate. This system has been there since 2018, and the first replacement satellite, NVS-1, was launched last year, and this is NVS-2, which has been launched now. This system is operational. It operates on 3 bands, L1, N2, L2 and CERA band, and provides precise position locations for our ships, for our missile systems, and even for commercial use. In fact, it is an indigenous system which we are very proud of, and it is meant for all usages in the Army, Armed Forces, there is the Army, Navy and Air Force, as well as for commercial use.
Okay. And how is it going to help India in ensuring that, like you said, it's going to help the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. How exactly, if you could give me the specifics, how does this information, the important, significant information that is going to be relayed from the satellite, is going to specifically help the defense sector?
Uh, Let me tell you today, world over, the first navigation system from space and which has been used worldwide is the GPS system, which is from America. And it gives two kinds of signals. One is for commercial use, one for military use. There also a system developed by the Europeans, by the Russians, and by the Chinese called Galileo, Beidou, and uh, uh, Galileo and Beidou. But this system, NAvIC, is the most precise system for the Indian landmass and the area around it. And what it gives us distinctly an advantage is for usage by Indian Air Force, by the Indian Navy, that is the ships, as well as in future and of course in some of them even in our weapon systems for precision.
Okay.
To summarize it, it gives us Atam Nirbharta, independence, not to bank on any foreign systems, but our own system of position, navigation, and timing.
Right. If you could, look into the future and tell us about the ambitious plans of ISRO when it comes to Gaganyaan, when it comes to Chandrayaan 4, how close are we in realizing these dreams?
Oh, yes, there is a well laid out plan which has been now even approved by the cabinet, which of course immediately starts with the Gaganyaan mission. 2 to 3 of its uncrewed missions will take place next year, and by 2026 end or 2027, there would be a crewed mission. And finally, by 2045, we are expecting an Indian launch vehicle taking an Indian crew to the moon and back. And in between would be the development of the NGLV, a new launch vehicle, as also the development of the Bharat Antariksh Station, which will start somewhere in 2028 and get over by 2035. But yes, the first mission and which we are looking in the next 2 to 3 years is Gaganyaan. Thereafter, the Chandrayaan 4 mission, and also in between there is the Venus mission also, which would be there, where a launch vehicle will be launched, a space vehicle will be launched for Venus. So this is broadly the program. From
Okay.
Gaganyaan, that is sending first human beings to space, to sending a crewed mission to the moon in 2045.
ISRO has also been collaborating with a number of space agencies in United States of America, in Russia as well. What is the future of these collaborations?
You know, there is one thing good about space is there has always been cooperation and collaboration there. And not only with USA and Russia, but also with Japan and with ESA, that is the European Space Agency, and many other countries. As you are aware, even the International Space Station, there was a time when American astronauts were taken there on a Russian spacecraft. So, always space has been an area of cooperation between multiple countries, and this will continue. India also has cooperation with many more, and France, which I forgot, is also there.
Yeah. Absolutely. But talking about cooperation and collaboration, and in stark contrast is space race, where China at this point of time is competing strongly against United States of America. Where does India stand? India positions itself in a bid to occupy space orbits.
Oh, well, like I said, space is not a place of rivalry today. Each nation has its space program, and that space program is required to meet the civilian and military needs of a nation. Yes, in the last few years, China has really geared up their space program that includes their space station as well as the larger number of launches and satellites which they have launched. But definitely, USA leads this with the largest number of launches which have taken place in the last few years, as well as the number of satellites. One of their companies, Starlink, a private company, has nearly 6,000 satellites which are there. But India today, with 50 to 51 satellites, has adequate for what we require for ourselves, be it for the military or for commercial use. And of course, there are plans in future to launch in the immediate future more than 50 satellites under the program called SBS-3 for the armed forces, as well as the NAvIC. All these satellites will be replaced. Whatever the requirements of communication, PNT, or Earth observation are there in India, there is a plan of these being launched either by ISRO and in the future even by the private sector.
I would also like to understand, and obviously something of a curiosity, that how long do you think does ISRO have on its agenda to set up a space station, the likes of the International Space Station by America, and also China at this point of time also moving ahead with that project?
Oh yes, we. That is why I said there is. You can theoretically say there's a competition, but more important is we are developing our space program as per our requirements and as we develop our indigenous capabilities. All what I told you from launching of Gaganyaan to the launching of a crewed mission to moon is being done by indigenous capability. Yes, there would be maybe a little gap if you compare it with China and America, but we are well in the process of taking it forward with the indigenous capability and the efforts of the Indian space enterprise, which includes led by ISRO, having the private sector, academia, and scientists there in it.
Thank you so much, General A.K. Bhatt, for joining me on the telecast and giving us all this important information in wake of this 100th milestone that ISRO has achieved today early in the morning. I also have with me Group Captain